There are things in here that I don't.
Okay, so she said she can't unmute until about 6:30, so she will be muted by listening.
Okay. Perfect.
So I think to speak.
It might be a little bit to juggle tonight.
No, well, yes, I'm serious. I have everyone.
Obviously, but there is usually a way that you can, you can roll up a little bit. It's an opportunity to raise your hand. I clearly don't, because I'm not the committee, so I just don't.
Okay, everybody, it's 6 o'clock. We'll start the city council meeting. Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance.
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Did you want my chair?
Thank you. Trina, would you read the roll?
Smith,
Here.
Rose,
Here.
Burbank, here, Green,
Here.
Arcano,
Here.
Tremblay,
Here.
and Councilmember Anderson is on Zoom, but she's muted. Can't say.
Perfect.
She's here.
Okay. Do we have any additions, deletions, or corrections to the agenda this evening?
The item for oath of office needs to be removed from the agenda.
Okay. Okay, firefighter Smith will
Join us next.
join us at the next council meeting to be sworn in as our newest Buckley firefighter.
So I would move to amend the agenda to remove the oath of office for Connor Smith.
Second.
Discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? All right. Got a few things here at the top before public comment. First off, I have appointments for the Senior Citizen Advisory Committee, and I'll let everybody know that these decisions weren't made in a vacuum as they have been possibly done in the past. So for the Senior Advisory Commission, I have Charles Martin will be appointed to that. And next we have appointments for the Planning Commission. Planning Commission members, we have two members that two vacancies to fill, Robert Woolfield and Ashley Ferrero will fulfill their obligation that they volunteered for on the Planning Commission. And then do you have the sheet for who's signed up to speak yet? While you're doing that,
Mayor, you do need a motion to confirm your recommended appointments.
oh, yes, thank you.
Motion to confirm the mayor's appointments to both the Senior Citizen Advisory Commission and the Planning Commission.
Second.
Okay, discussion, anybody? Questions, comments, concerns? Thank you, Trina.
Mhm.
Okay. Seeing none, all in favor,
Aye.
all opposed,
I abstain.
one abstention. All right, before we get into public comment, this has all been kind of literally in the last couple hours. We've had some evolution here, so I hope everybody in the audience and online is listening. I'm going to read this off my sheet here, but I'll try to keep my own comments to myself. So we were made aware today of a fact sheet, and I'll put that in quotes for those that are listening at home. A fact sheet related to the B&O tax that claims that the city has proposed a B&O ordinance that includes penalties where the city can fine, impose interest, and the threat of imprisonment. The city has yet to review any ordinance related to the proposed B&O tax. In fact, we haven't even drafted the B&O, possible B&O tax. Where these fact sheets came from is, will be determined at a later date. We have had one conversation and we'll be taking a deeper dive into the scenarios on September 5th, and we will invite you all and encourage you all to come at that time. To be clear, we have not begun to draft an ordinance. MRSC has a model ordinance, which we would likely use as a starting point, and does not include the language outlined in the quote unquote fact sheet that has been transmitted. Overall, we are still evaluating options for increasing revenue next year. Of course, we welcome all your feedback for what it will take to increase revenue to the city. And you're all well aware that we've had not just the last, but the president prior to that, printing money like it's going out of style. So if you have any interest in the B&O tax or any other things that revenue will generate for the city, understand we all know the cost to do anything has gone up significantly in the last 6 to 8 years. So with that, I just wanted to get that out there. So I know I would have appreciated this as a citizen. I am a citizen. As a council member, as a is sitting wherever anybody's sitting tonight, but just you can take it for what it is. I just please check your facts before we get too far down this road this evening. And with that, we'll open up public comment. Oh, who do we have first? Josh. Oh, Carolyn, you said you, yes, please go first.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. Carolyn Robertson Harding here, 553 Tanner Avenue, Buckley. Here this evening as Secretary of the Chamber of Commerce. I stand before you today in strong opposition to the item number 1 on the proposed revenue options presented at the study session last week. In my experiences in previous work and journey, businesses are welcomed in communities. They're heard, they're supported in their efforts to do business in the community. There's a valued relationship. They meet in business roundtables or work with electeds. They attend chamber meetings and work together to find solutions to community issues. I wish you could have seen the look on the faces of your local businesses today when I, as a chamber person, went to them and told them that the city was considering a possible local B&O tax. Some of them are here tonight. Many of those expressed concerns that they just got through COVID. Some were using ARPA money, PPP loans to keep the doors open, and now they consistently deal with rising costs on food, extraordinary transportation prices, and staffing shortages. One example of that would be LKQ. They only have 17 staff right now. They'd like 25, but they can't find people to work. And so they are struggling to make ends meet. I wanted to let you all know that I met with Sean at Arrow Lumber. Sean wanted you to know that he's very concerned about this B&O tax, that he does not support it, and that he will be at the council meeting at the 26th of September to do public comment. I also spoke with Aluma, the scaffolding company on Highway 410. I spoke with Jim, the manager there. He said this tax is not acceptable to them either, and that he also will be attending a council meeting to express his concerns. I met with Platt Electric, PGH, all of which are sharing their information with their corporate folks and will be getting back to us and to the city expressing their concerns about that tax. If you enact this type of a regressive tax, you will be forcing us to make decisions about our businesses that regressive taxes create. Layoffs, reducing our donations to the community, and relocating some or all of our business. I never thought I would see the day in Buckley that our city council and our neighbors in an election year, no less, would propose a tax on our businesses without even meeting with us. At this point, this is a staff recommendation. Before you choose to vote against every business in your community, you need to talk to us, talk with other electeds, and do not make this pickleball all over again. Thank you.
Thanks, Carolyn. Okay, Ally. Oh, to the end, okay. Jasmine.
Hello, Mayor. Hello, Council. Jasmine Tran from the Buckley Library and here to talk about library news. We had a very exciting summer reading. We've had a couple hundred families come and participate in our summer reading program. Our summertime stories are really popular. We've ranging 50 to 60 kids coming to the library to the point where we had to go outside because we're overcoming our meeting room occupancy levels. So just wanted to share how great summer reading has been and how happy we've been seeing the families come to the library. I also wanted to share in a couple weeks, you may notice some landscaping happening by the library. We will be removing some contaminated soil from that area. And then hopefully we'll have some fresh landscaping next spring. So you might see a little muddy patch by the library for a little bit, but come spring, it'll be a beautiful landscape with lots of trees and arbor for shades. Thank you.
Okay, super, thank you, Jasmine. Bonnie.
Good evening, everybody. Colleen kind of beat me to the punch here, but I did have some other concerns. The B&O tax, that's really non-starter. We will lose a large amount of our businesses because we have a lot of small business that can't afford it. And we want new business. They're not going to come. They'll go to the outlying areas that don't have a B&O tax. And the other thing is trying to balance our budget. One thing I noticed when I listened to the study session, nothing was said about what our general fund has in it. The last time I'd heard anything, it was a little over $1 million. Don't know why part of that can't be used to balance the budget. You don't need to be trying to balance a budget on the citizens' backs in this city. Most of them are struggling or just getting back on their feet. You don't need to take it out of their pocket by putting in any larger taxes on them. And as far as taking anything away from our police department or our fire department, no, you don't touch those two things. They're our safety. They are our lifeline in case of an emergency. You do not touch those to balance a budget. But if I noticed here at the bottom, you want up to $100,000 spent on Gray and Osborne and architects. That's a lot of money that can go towards a budget. Do we need that done? No. Is that going to start the building? No. That's just another 100,000 added on to this building that they want to build. Add on to. Not necessarily at this time. What is totally necessary at this time is to get this budget taken care of, make sure in 24 it's balanced, and then start thinking about spending some money instead of just spending. The average citizen can't do that. You have a budget you have to live by. You don't go out and buy a $200,000 car because, hey, that's what I want. You go buy the little more moderate one, or you fix up what you have. And the city's not doing that. And the other thing on here tonight, I noticed is on the, on the passports. $15 per passport, if I read it correctly. Well, that's what's on there, lined. I don't know what it does cost. She's shaking her head no.
It's just for the picture.
Just for the picture, okay. You want to hire somebody else, which is going to cost payroll, medical, anything else that has to be added in. Is this going to pay for it? Is there enough time, enough money in there that it's going to create to actually pay for another person? Thank you.
Thanks, Connie. Okay, does anybody else, would anybody else like to speak before we'll have another section at the end of the council meeting if anybody else would like to speak? No? Okay. Oh, Al. Okay, sure, yeah.
Just gonna continue what everyone else is saying, though. I'm Ally Santman, owner Main Street Bistro, president of the chamber, also on the board of the Downtown Association. So last week before your study session, I sent everyone a letter. I just wanted to first quickly read that out loud. It was regarding the B&O tax. The Chamber of Commerce would like to make clear that we're not in support of the proposed plan to implement a B&O tax on businesses and increase other business-related fees in order to offset the budget deficit. Buckley businesses and community organizations have been working hard to rebuild what was once a thriving business community, with new businesses slowly coming back to our city. Imposing new taxes and fees for our businesses does not send the message that that Buckley is a business-friendly town. We understand the challenges of a budget deficit and respect the work you have to do to overcome it, but asking our businesses to foot a large amount of that bill is not the answer. We need businesses in Buckley to support the influx of new residents that have been and will continue to be moving into our small town. We need a reason for our residents to stay here and spend their money here rather than travel to our neighboring cities, which are only a couple minutes away, that already have thriving business communities. City staff and city council should do whatever they can to support and encourage business growth in Buckley. Implementing new taxes will not do that. I just wanted to also add that this maybe was discussed at the study session. Hopefully everybody already knows, but 281 cities in Washington state, only 49 of them have a B&O tax. None of our neighbors have a B&O tax. Enumclaw, Bonnie Lake, Sumner, Puyallup, Wilkeson, Carbonado, South Prairie, Maple Valley, probably a ton others, but none of them have a B&O tax. And we only have to look to Enumclaw, Sumner, Puyallup and see what a thriving business community looks like. I think they're probably doing something right. We know that this list is of recommendations from city staff at this point, but I also know I've been here almost 4 years. In my 4 years here, city council has always been really supportive of the businesses, and we really appreciate that. We just really hope that you continue to support us. Like a couple people said, the people who are struggling to get out of COVID, we still can't hire anyone. To implement this now is kind of a slap in the face to some of us. So we're just asking you to continue supporting us. And not only that, encourage new businesses to come here. I mean, why would they come here? They can go to Enumclaw or Sumner or Puyallup. Also, just on a personal note, I own a restaurant. I'm assuming I'm in line with a lot of other restaurants and probably a ton of other businesses. This tax is on gross revenue. My gross revenue might be really high, but our costs, food costs and labor in a restaurant is ridiculous, but we're taxed on that gross, not the net. And that doesn't make a lot of sense to me. So just asking that you reconsider this while you're moving forward with figuring out this budget. Thank you.
Thanks, Ally. One more time, anybody else like to speak before we get into the meat of the council meeting? Okay. And we'll revisit again. There'll be another chance to speak at the end. Okay. Mayor's report, I kind of covered that in the beginning. So, finance, admin and public safety.
Admin, Finance and Public Safety Committee met on August 14th. The administration update is following positions are open and currently being recruited. Both senior and associate planner and a management analyst for public works. An employment offer was made and accepted for a wastewater treatment plant operator. And currently interviews were conducted for a utility and street worker. Decision forthcoming on that. And lastly, scheduling has been done for interviews for an administrative assistant for passports. And that is a 0.5, if I remember, spot with another 0.5 supporting other city work. Special events, the Buckley Hometown Market's been moved to Thunderbird Park. And those are Thursdays, and I believe through October. Oh, through August. Okay, sorry. At the time of our meeting, the White River Wolverines, the junior football program, was gonna have a pep rally, or they already had their, but anyways, they had a pep rally at the Youth Activity Center. So that happened last weekend. The third annual Buckley Car Show was held, and followed by the cruise. And lastly, the Anchor House Coffee's sponsored Run in Slavery Run has been moved to October 7th. We discussed City Hall remodel, but we talked about it the next day at the study session. Finance, the things we talked about at the committee meeting, we're talking about the study session. Chief Alfano's advised that he's processing an entry-level candidate for police officer. And if everything works out, an employment offer should be made. Chief Scogan advised the town of South Prairie has reached out to Buckley Fire and the city regarding future contracted services as their contract with East Pierce ends at the end of 2024. Next meeting is sometime in September.
Thanks, Ron. Transportation and Utilities.
Transportation and Utility Committee met August 15th. We discussed the recruitment status update. The new wastewater treatment plant operator in training will start work on September 5th. The new street stormwater utility worker is expected to start on September 15th. Staff is still in recruitment process for the public works management position. Hinkleman Road contaminated soil update. The Hinkleman Road project was started and then delayed due to the contractor finding contaminated soil within the project limits. Currently, status soil samples were taken at each end of the project and one in the middle, and it was determined there is contaminated soils with diesel within the entire length of the project. The contaminated soil will be removed and hauled to an approved dump site. City council should expect a $100,000 to $110,000 change order for this project at some point. Wastewater treatment outfall mixing zone study, proof of service council agenda item. Engineering proposal to study and update the city's existing mixing zone model and reevaluate the reasonable potential for effluent permit limits based on both aquatic life and human health criteria. The study will address all requirements in section S9.A general requirements and S9.B reporting requirements of the city's NPDES permit. We completed a system leak survey of the water system. Every 5 to 7 years, the city hires an outside vendor to perform a leak survey of the water system. Staff has been told that our water system is relatively leak-free, but we are still waiting the final report. Consolidated Utilities project status update. The project is getting close to finished and city council should expect to see a final acceptance agenda item in the next couple of months. And that was it.
Thank you. Community services did not meet, it was canceled. Brandon, you have anything you'd like to touch on?
Yeah, actually I do. Not for community services, but I wasn't gonna do this, but I will because this has something to do with the council resolution. So sorry. Okay. So when I first got appointed, a lot of you guys passed a resolution. Sorry, I'm more emotional. Passed a resolution to allow me to both serve the council and the fire department. Lately, I had to take a tough look at the reality of my schedule and found that I just don't have the time to give to the fire department what they deserve. So I had to make a really tough decision, and I resigned my position last week. I always look back. It was a great time, great experience. I got to work with a lot of wonderful, honorable people, and just always look back with pride on that. And just you can expect me to continue to be now be able to be a more vocal advocate for the fire department in my council position. So continue supporting the fire department from my seat here. But thank you, Chief, for the opportunity. Appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you, Brandon, for volunteering. Council member comments and go to the order. Mr. Smith.
So tonight we've heard from some very esteemed citizens and business owners or hear about a conversation we had around a possible B&O tax. And I was proud to hear that at least two of those people said it came from city staff. And yes, it did. This is not a council manic idea. We are open to hearing all kinds of input from city staff and others on how to properly pay for the services that the city provides to all. So who pays? Revenue is a thing. And I do understand if I could click my heels together and we could get 4 new businesses here but that takes time. Our city is growing. We have to, as a city, submit to comply with the Gross Management Act at the end of next year for the next 20 years of what our build out is. And our build out is about 3,500 more than what we have now. Those take services. You got to pay for them. Somebody alluded to the fact that we should not be ever considering to cut Buckley Fire or Buckley PD over my dead body as long as I sit here. Will that ever happen? Ever. Never. Ever happen. As far as the city hall remodel, the way I look at it, others have had other ideas and we've talked about all kinds of things. As this city grows, we have to have staff to support and to serve this city. What do we do? Are we to just not touch that city hall and maybe put a couple portables outside, like schools did? I'm sure it would have water and electricity, but is that what we're going to do? Or are we going to make a middle of the road solution to solve this? Nobody's trying to build a Taj Mahal. Nobody's trying to spend more money than we have, but we have to be. I find it unconscionable to me that somebody wanting to do business with this city, permit wise or whatnot, has to go 2-3 different places to get their business done. They need to go to one door, not giving our people the runaround. Not at all. And I support Buckley businesses and I always will. Thank you.
Thanks, Ron.
I have
Milt.
a procedure question.
Oh, sure.
We're in council comments now. And it was my understanding that we don't respond to public comments in the meeting. And we shouldn't make it a habit of doing it because then it becomes an expectation. I just want to caution us against starting to do that. And then there's items, Ron, I appreciate your sentiment and your passion, but we're discussing items that are on the agenda. And we'll be coming up for discussion here in a little bit. City Hall remodel is what I'm alluding to. I would prefer to keep my comments on that topic on the agenda item and not in a general comment thing, because I don't think that's the appropriate way. Somebody may argue with me, but if it's on the agenda, we ought to discuss it on at appropriate agenda spot.
Yeah, no, you're welcome to make your comments at either or both or neither.
Yeah.
So.
Okay.
Right, good, Treva. Okay.
Mhm.
All right. Any other council member comment? This is a little out of order from the way we used to do it too, Milt. So it's it's not,
It just
it doesn't
seems-
flow like it used to.
It seems like if we're going to talk about it, we will have a discussion.
Yeah.
We ought to do it at that time so we can go back and forth.
Okay. Right. Other council member comments, good to the order, anything along those lines? So are we past the time if Mackenzie, I don't know if she has anything.
She's still muted.
Okay,
She's
still
still
muted, okay. Okay, consent agenda.
On tonight's consent agenda is an engineering services proposal for wastewater treatment plant facility outfall mixing zone study Approval of the minutes of the April 11th, 2023 city council meeting and the minutes of the May 9th, 2023 city council meeting.
Move to approve the consent agenda.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed?
Motion carries. The next item is resolution number 23-11, amending the city taxes, rates and fee schedule, revision number 36.
Move to approve resolution number 23-11, amending the 2023 city taxes, rates and fee schedule to add passport photos.
Second.
Discussion. Amanda,
I just have a question about how the cost for the photos was determined.
By contacting other people that provide passport photos, and this is the average cost.
That's what I want to know, because
Yes.
I knew that Walgreens and CVS, it's $17.
Yeah.
UPS is 13. I just was wondering okay. So then I have another follow-up question. Why go in the average and not go a little bit higher?
We certainly could. And when we
mean-
were looking at that almost $100,000 in gross revenue for the passport assistance,
Mhm.
that's after they're hired at the halftime. That didn't even include this $15 charge.
Okay,
So what we've been finding is that we're turning away this opportunity for business.
Mhm.
And again, we just kind of picked the $15 number, but we could certainly, now would be the time if you would like to see that a little bit higher.
I'm not saying go crazy. I'm just saying if Walgreens and CVS charge
Sure.
$17, I mean,
Sure.
I don't know. I mean,
It's definitely a convenience that we'd be offering to folks and we plan to market it as such.
right. Okay, I don't know. Anybody else have thoughts?
you want to think on it a minute and
I was just wondering,
Yeah.
just thinking about.
you can certainly propose to change it.
Folks do pay a $35 fee to the city to process the applications,
Okay.
and then the $15 would be on top of that for the photos.
Got it. Okay, thank you.
Mhm.
That helps.
Any other questions, comments, concerns on the photo, the addition of the photo fee? Mackenzie's still muted too.
Oh, let me see, I gotta check. She's gonna say aye.
Okay. All right. No other further comments? Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All opposed?
Motion carries. The next item on the agenda is design contract for the second edition of City Hall with Gray and Osborne Engineering and Tavani Hart Architects for up to $100,000.
Somebody interested in making a motion?
Move to approve resolution 23-12. No,
It's not
strike
a
that.
resolution.
Oh,
Strike that. Move to approve the design contract for the second edition of City Hall, Green Osborne and Tavani Hart Architects for up to 100,000.
Second.
right. Courtney has some. Or if you have questions.
Happy to answer any questions. This would be paid out of the balance for the REIT dollars that we currently have. For this project, we have 1.55. So 1,550,000 already allocated towards the City Hall remodel. Next year and on the annual basis, that increases roughly by 300,000. So there is excess in that fund that is unspent. We have another $425,000 currently that has been unspent for the Foothills Trail parking lot. So that balance, that fund is at a healthy fund balance. If this project was to move forward, for the cost of construction, it is estimated that there would need to be another revenue source, whether that would be drawing down from fund balance in the general fund, tapping into the cumulative reserve, or going out for financing. And that's what we discussed at our last meeting. So what you're voting on tonight is ultimately if we move forward with that second edition, the $100,000 would include the cost for the permitting, the full design of the second edition, including designing the engineering for the site work and putting the project out to bid. So the next time you would see this project, it would be with a financing plan that would need to be approved. So use of the cumulative reserve or an alternative, as well as approving, in theory, the contract for the project itself. So we will come back to you with the lowest bid.
Amanda.
So to clarify, this money cannot be used for our budget deficit, correct?
That's
This is
correct.
out of REIT money, so it has to be, it's a separate pot.
That's correct.
Correct. Okay, thank you.
Kenny?
Well, I just struggle because moving forward, I don't. Support taking money from the 5 million we got in reserves over the water department. In the final funding phase.
Gotcha. Okay. Okay. Milt?
Yeah, I have several issues with this recommendation. First of all, I apologize for being late to the table on the decision whether to remodel or look at a more, in my opinion, a more permanent solution and perhaps a more appropriate solution. I find the remodel to be, frankly, an eyesore. It's not going to function properly. It's not going to have enough space for our needs for the next 30 years because we're cramming everything in. We're working within a column spacing that's already existing. I haven't seen, and I haven't seen the early pictures, but I haven't seen any elevations on the new remodel. I can tell you it's going to look like a house that added a couple of wings on it and with a lot of ramps. And it will only be, what's the total square footage?
3,800.
3,800 square feet.
39.
My house is 1,800 square feet. And it's going to look like what it is, an old women's library that is turned into a city hall that doesn't fit the city hall. If our issue is space for our planning department and for other services, I would recommend that we take $100,000 and rent some space downtown. We can rent 3,000 square feet for $90,000. We can do that for 30 months. And that gives us time to make the right choice here, to do a proper design, to do my training tells me that you need about 1 square foot for City Hall for every person that you have in town. We're looking at 7,500 people here in about 5 years. We need an 8,000 square foot facility that has a court, that has the planning department all in one place. I would even suggest that we need it to be on River Road, next to the library, next to the post office, next to the youth center, across from the maintenance. We already have parking there that we just built the next year. I will tell you, my experience has been that we could build an 8,000 square foot brand new city hall for about $4 million.
Make sure you pull the mic up just so people.
For about $4 million. We're looking to spend 2.6 million on something that doesn't give us enough space. It's going to be an eyesore. And in 10 years, it will have outlived its useful life. A new city hall should last 40 to 50 years. So I'm saying, let's not do it quick because it's the solution in front of us. Let's do it right. Ording built their city hall. If you've seen it, 6.5 mil, 12,000 square feet for their 12,000 residents. And it has a lot of, when you talk about servicing the people, it's all in one place. Everybody who's a resident here who doesn't have a mailbox goes to the post office every day. So it's going to be walkable. It'll be seen from the highway. It'll say Buckley is a real city and not just somebody, we're not just something that's been done over every 10 years, because that's what we'll have to do. We haven't really discussed the hazardous materials that exist in the old city hall, the lead, the abatement that's going to be required, plus my experience with existing buildings, the unknowns. There could be things that we find in taking that apart that will cost us a lot of money, and by then you're committed. The other thing is that property has value. I would suggest that selling that property would bring in 1 to 1.5 mil and perhaps build senior housing right next to the senior center. or something that's more appropriate. I haven't been part of the discussion about the heritage tree that's on that lot. You know, every time we take out a tree like that, it's taken away from our heritage. I've got a wall in my front yard. I don't think I'd ever be able to cut it down and have you people not complain about it. This is the same thing. That tree's been there for 200 to 300 years. And so for all of the above, oh, the budget. I cannot see spending 100,000 more on a solution that's not the right solution, and then require us to go dig into another 200,000 into a reserve that has no prospect of being balanced in the next 5 years. We have to look at this as a long-term solution, not an immediate response. Even if we decide to remodel the existing city hall, we will have to move everybody and put them somewhere anyway during that time or not have any service. So to me, bite the bullet, find some space, relocate our planning, maybe our court, or put some people over. There's plenty of open spaces. Chamber could help me out there. There's plenty of open space on Main Street that could be an interim use for our city, for our planning department and other personnel to work out. To me, it's inevitable. We're going to need that space. I can't see spending 100 grand on something that I'm not going to support in the long run.
Brendan.
Yeah, kind of a follow-up to Councilmember Burbank's question. So REIT money aside and $100,000 for this vote aside, looking into the future when we're looking at funding this big project, is there any interplay between this project and our deficit conversation? Like, I mean, the reserves, is that something we would potentially be looking at for the deficit? How does it all work together, or does it?
There is a possibility that council could choose to dip into the cumulative reserves as a one-time way to balance the general fund. That will not be staff's recommendation. We do have a balance in our existing general fund, just over $1 million. The audit is finding potentially some additional dollars there as well to balance the general fund. A sizable portion of that is ARPA. Right now, we have just over $400,000 of ARPA dollars that are underutilized. And with the amount, for example, if we chose not to move forward with the B&O tax, we would have a rolling deficit of about $160,000 right now, based off of early projections. You'll get a full preliminary budget in October. So it is an option to dip into the cumulative reserve for a one-time use to balance the general fund. It's not likely what staff would recommend, but technically you can use those dollars for any emergency situation. So in this case, the PowerPoint that we had provided a couple of weeks ago outlined the emergent situations for City Hall and the space issue itself. There is some other options for funding out of the general fund, including additional grants, which we're actively pursuing, increases to taxes and fees, which we have kind of spread through our staff recommendations across the board. But we do have that ARPA fund balance, the general fund balance, and the cumulative reserve, which could also be used to balance the general fund. REIT dollars cannot be used to balance the general fund. The utilities outside of what we typically have for our cost allocation cannot be used to balance the general fund. So what we are proposing for the initial funding for the City Hall outside of that delta of $500,000 to $700,000 for that second edition would be out of those funds that you couldn't use for the general fund. It would just be that balance that you would have the option, again, drawing down from fund balance, cumulative reserve, or going out for separate financing through a bond, councilmanic bond.
I have a follow-up. Second of all, $4 million that it would take to build a new one. I find that to be, if you take the 2.5 that we have out, it's now 1.5 mil. You'll recover about $1 million from the property. The rest, I would recommend that we take it out of the PSC money. That is our reserve basically right now. And that is what we give back to the community for selling PSC and for allowing us to sell PSC. I think the other danger we have as a community is that we are carrying too much in reserve. A $5 million reserve is 70% of our budget, of our annual budget. If we don't use it for a good one-time expenditure, we are continually going to try to balance the budget with that money. That's not what it was collected for. It's not why we sold PSE. It was for a major project for the community and not to balance the budget. I just want to remind people of that because I was on the council when we made that deal, and that was our discussion at the time. It wasn't to be used to balance budgets. It's to be used to give something to the community. I had suggested at that time that we build a splash park, which our kids would have loved. 150, 200,000 for a splash park. I still think that's something we should do. When we had the fire department there with their hoses on night out, we could see what good a splash park would do. Anyway, so the money is there for a new city hall if we want to do it right. It will take time. It may extend us out, and we have to look at interim space for our people, but we have to do that anyway. Anyway, I'm done.
Is Mackenzie, she hasn't shown any.
She said she would be on, so I'm
Okay.
guessing if she has something to say, she'll raise her hand.
Okay. Oh, you can see what she, okay. Okay, Brandon.
Just one more comment. So I want to find the space for staff. I think that needs to be a priority, but I also want to make sure that we get the budget thing tied up first. And not that I want to dip into the cumulative reserve or anything, but I want to make sure that we have all options on the table. And it's just for a few more months to get this conversation rolling. So, I'd like to, my vote tonight will be no on this and maybe potentially revisiting in the future. But I want to get the budget thing under wraps before I start looking at major projects that could impact potential options going into the budget season.
Ron.
I will state what we are. The business in front of us is to get more information, a second set of architectural and engineering information to see. Nobody's made a decision on anything, but we can't make a decision unless we see what the options are, other than what has already been presented. And the second the item we're voting on tonight was with the mindset of folding in building and planning, everything on that side of the hallway into City Hall. Our senior center can expand everything over there, everything. And here we have council chambers and municipal court, and it can be set up as such, just to get everybody underneath one roof, so that people aren't having to, when they're going through the permitting process, come here, go pay over here, come back over here, turn this in over here. That's no way to treat our people that are residents or those doing business coming in to do business in Buckley. And so that, in my mind, that is what we're doing. We're going to get more information. We haven't agreed on anything. We have one set of information we looked at, and this is going to be a second set of information. And obviously, none of us here are engineers or architects or any of that, so we have to pay somebody to do it.
Excuse me.
That's the way I look at it.
Excuse me, I'm an architect.
Note taken, but I don't believe based on that you could do that work for free.
Okay, thank you for wrapping that up, Ron. That's basically that I wanted to bring that back to. That's what we're voting on tonight. So far, we've approved the first expansion of City Hall. This is to look at a second option to expand and bring planning and building down to City Hall as well. This is just to look at what it would cost to do the second phase of the addition.
Spend $100,000
Up
on a
to.
solution that I'm not in favor of.
Yep. Absolutely. Okay. And this just not a roll call vote. Okay. All in favor,
Aye.
Aye.
all opposed.
No.
We have 3 no's, I believe. Is that correct?
I think we have four.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm not sure. Do you want
We
to do a
need to
roll
do it. We
call?
need to do a
Yeah,
roll
let's
call.
just go through it. I think.
All right. Burbank,
No.
Green,
No.
Rose,
Yes.
Smith,
Yes.
Arcano,
No.
Tremblay,
No.
Anderson.
Yes.
Correct. 4 to 3. Okay.
Motion fails.
Okay. All right. On to staff reports.
Tonight, the staff report I have to provide is related to legislative priorities, and this is an introduction to legislative priorities, which is something we discussed a bit at the end of last year. To my knowledge, we don't have a history of creating a City of Buckley legislative priority list, which we would be able to share with our neighboring jurisdictions as well as Pierce County, and then, of course, our state legislative body. The week before last, I had the opportunity to attend a meeting in the city of Lakewood that was between the mayors and city administrators and city managers where they discussed public safety. And I provided a copy of the agenda for all of you to review. Their large emphasis is coming from the AWC Legislative Committee considerations and have to do with public safety as it pertains to police pursuits, auto theft and property crime, public safety recruitment and retention, the Blake fix, and then behavioral health. They have assembled a subcommittee, which I volunteered to be a part of, for us to partner as Pierce County in order to come forward with the united front of items that we would like to see pertaining to public safety. So for tonight, and this is again just an introduction to this discussion, we'll have another opportunity to review and discuss in October. And my hope would be that we would be able to have a legislative agenda adopted end of October, early November, so we can be ready for our next session. What else would you like to see added? And I have proposed a few suggestions, not related to public safety, because again, we are now part of a subcommittee for that effort. And those items include, as part of the transportation revenue package, that Highway 410 be prioritized for funding, design, and construction. To revise the arbitrary 1% property tax cap and instead tie it to inflation and population growth. This is an AWC, Association of Washington Cities, priority. It was referenced in the 2023 legislative session, and it's growing traction with more communities. So right now we have that 1% increase maximum for property tax for increased revenue. Anything above that, and you need a levy lid lift. There has been consideration in prior sessions, and we are expecting in the next session there be some consideration that be increased. And then a request to expand the matching grant program identified for court security offices to benefit all eligible cities, not just those in rural counties. So they made some effort to offer funding to smaller jurisdictions this last session for court security specifically, but we are not included because we're in Pierce County, which is not a rural county. So those were just 3 ideas that I had based off of conversations that we've had collectively. Our legislative agenda, I think, benefits us if we're looking at partnering with neighboring communities. I have reached out to Bonnie Lake as well as Enumclaw, and they have indicated a strong interest in helping us with Highway 410. If there's anything else that you can think of, though, tonight or in those future discussions to add to our legislative agenda list, we have an opportunity to partner with our region, as well as potentially going up to Olympia, maybe in lobbying on behalf of our own interests.
Yeah, the only comment I have, Brandon, you've been going to PCRC. PCRC will also create a legislative agenda. I would suggest that we roll ours into theirs once we've settled ours out, make sure we get concluded with the Ordings and the Bonnie Lakes and the others that are in PCRC.
Yeah, go ahead,
Yeah, I
Brandon.
definitely think there's some overlap. There's some places that PCRC won't touch, like the public safety.
Yeah.
Things like that, they typically shy away from because it's more growth and, that kind of thing. But yeah, I agree.
Whatever we can get in.
Yeah, well, yeah, get our name, get some stuff on there for sure, especially 410. I have a couple thoughts. They're not fleshed out at all. So we just put them down and maybe we talk through them and they don't turn out to be anything, maybe they do. So definitely the police pursuit and all things auto theft, like that has to be on there. one thing that pops in my mind is the conversation around the housing growth targets, if there's a way to revisit that or lobby to get some of that stuff changed, so we can have more control at the local level. I think that we should speak up on that, and everyone else at the local level should as well. One thing I saw on the back of here is public safety officer recruitment and retention. The first bullet point is support additional funding tools to support officer recruitment and retention. I'd like to throw in something around fire and EMS too, explore funding tools for fire and EMS, not just the police, but both.
Thanks, Brandon. Ron.
I would state that I am all for what the city of Lakewood, the meeting that the city administrator attended, what they're looking at and what AWC is looking at in the area of public safety. And public safety also includes fire. And I know that these items are talking about supporting law enforcement after the action is taken by the legislature, signed by the governor in this state, that has stripped law enforcement from being able to do their job. Behavioral health, that would solve a lot of things. That's needed for the people who are suffering from that, and it would take the strain off of public safety. Getting back to something here, revising the arbitrary 1% tax. I believe that was enacted by a citizens initiative in years gone by. The hated Tim Iman, I believe, was the one who put that forward, and the citizens voted for that because we used to have runaway property taxes. And I don't know about you, but we all on this council live in this town and in this county, and property taxes are pretty prime. All for a legislative priority, talking about 410. How we can somehow fix that.
Okay. Anybody else? For legislative stuff? Okay.
For our next study session, we will be revisiting the B&O tax scenarios. We had originally hoped to have that this week, but we need some more time. So we'll be taking a deeper dive with those scenarios at our next study session. We will also have the Housing Action Plan, the HAP. This ultimately is a policy document that will evolve into the housing element of the comprehensive plan. There is a mandated deadline that we adopt the HAP in order to be eligible for Commerce reimbursed funding by September 30th. So since they put forward the original guidelines, there have been a lot of changes at the legislative session this last year that impacted affordable housing mandates. That's not all going to be incorporated likely in this version of the HAP. So consider it step one to what will become the housing element, but we will start that review at that same study session.
Perfect. Thanks, Courtney. All right. And back to public comment. And I know we have at least one person wants to speak. Anybody else? If you would just raise your hand. Yeah, okay, one. You want to go ahead and come on up.
Excuse me. I'm Amy Boucher with the Buckley Downtown Association. I just want to speak on behalf of with regards to some comments, made with regards to the remodel of City Hall. From the historic preservation perspective, this is in the downtown corridor, and our mission is to make downtown a place community gathers, businesses thrive, all while preserving history and culture. And so I think that's something that I know we don't have any historic ordinances or guidelines in place, but that's something I think that we are going to be starting to work on, or the city is with the new Citizens Advisory Board. And so I haven't heard really anything about that in this remodel, if that is the route that's taken. So I would just, heavily advise taking that into consideration. The other part of, comments made about potentially relocating staff. We definitely do not need more office space down on Main Street. So we would highly recommend not to put office space in the buildings that are empty. We want thriving, whether it's retail and restaurant activity, things that are going to bring people, in all hours of the day. But definitely, I just want to put those out there for you guys to think about. And lastly, just thank you for the support of our events. We're kind of coming to the end of our summer series with our hometown market. We're hopefully going to have a big kind of last market on the 31st. I hope all of you can come or at least swing by. We're looking at some kind of summer back to school summer stuff. So really involving the kids and the youth. That was one thing. I don't know if you guys seen the pictures about the car show, but the Logger Award, which was the Mayor's Choice Award, the kid that won, actually Jacob Fisher, he's the one with the red tractor that drives around. He's come every cruise with his grandfather on that tractor. And I know, we see him at middle school because my girls go there. And I just thought like what we're doing and what we've done, the Downtown Association this last summer, it's like, it's an honor to be a part of it, for one. The fact seeing the youth come out and be a part of it, and to see this kid like show up. I mean, he was sitting there like talking with the adult, like, the pride that he had, that's the culture that we're preserving. And the history too. I mean, it was a 41 or 48 something tractor. So we're doing good stuff, and, the community is receptive, and we're here to support, support the city. And like Ali said, and with regards to the city supporting the businesses and, waiving those fees for the TIF fees. We're all doing our part to revitalize and make a strong community here. And so I love the work that we're doing. I can't wait to kind of share a summer wrap up of all the markets and kind of the impacts that we've made this year. So I think with that, I will close, but thank you very much.
Thanks, Amy.
Perfect.
And remind me, Amy, are you in city limits?
No.
Okay. Carly.
Hello,
Hey.
Carly Britt, 133 South Cedar Street. I'm with Salon 790. And I missed the first part because I got the time wrong. So if I am repeating myself or repeating other people, I apologize. Regarding the B&O tax, obviously we are not for that. I think after surviving COVID and all the other things that a small town brings when you have a business, a small business especially, another tax it's hard for us. It just is another hardship for us to have to come through. I mean, when I first started the salon years ago, I had tanning beds, and then all of a sudden they implemented, not you guys, but federally, they implemented a tanning tax, 10% additional on top of the 7.9% I was already charging for regular tax. Not only is it harder to file, but it just becomes really expensive, and it makes it not worth it to do it. And I know that right now, I feel like Buckley's on a really good trend of bringing in more businesses. We've got Doxa right next to us that's thriving on the weekends now. I mean, the car show was great for them. I just think that being a small business here in Buckley, we need all the support we can get, and adding an additional tax to us isn't supportive. Thank you.
Okay. Thanks, Carly. Anybody else like to speak? Matt, come on up. I know you live in Buckley, so.
Yeah. Bill, I walk around town quite a bit, and the people I've talked to agree with you. And I think we should look into building a new city hall.
Thank you.
Thanks, Matt. Jim. Buckley resident.
I wasn't going to talk Milt, but I had to get up here and disagree with you on a couple quick things. So the first thing I wanted to talk about was the sale of the gas department and the $5 million. I was here as well, as you know, that when that sold, we had just came off the short tail of a depression. We closed a jail down. We closed a dispatch center down. We used money out of reserve equipment funds to make payroll. Yeah. And we said we were never going to touch that money again unless it was for a emergency situation as such. So I'll disagree. I'll back that $5 million till the cow come home. I'll fight to save that money because I lived through the times where they took money out of my reserve accounts to make payroll. And it got that bad, and about every 15 to 20 years, a recession comes around. With that said, I support remodeling the town hall 100%. I mean, I really do. It's a matter of finding the money, and I don't think the $5 million is the answer. I think that needs to be saved for a rainy day when you really need it. Second of all, is I wouldn't want you guys going off. We never know without doing our homework, having it done, having a plan designed. But I'm going to tell you, your 4 million's way off. $10,000 commercial building in a city, you're looking probably someplace over 8 million to do.
No, that's 10,000 square feet.
Yeah, 10,000 square feet, commercial building, because that's what it is in town. I will bet a state retirement check on it. You're between $7 and $8 million to build that building.
Yours against mine.
Yeah, there you go. So, but all I wanted to say is be realistic about it. Don't just take a $4 million cost and say, we can put a 10,000 square foot new building up for that. I support that. And if it actually came to the voters, I would vote for it.
Yeah.
You know, I would take the increases in my tax to have a nice city hall or to do whatever to remodel the one we have.
Yeah.
Don't touch the $5 million and be realistic about it. It's going to cost you some coin. Let's balance the budget right now. There's lots of ways to balance that budget. Let's get that budget balanced going into 24 so we can look at 25, 26, 27. Balancing 24 is easy. It's after that it gets tough. But that budget is pretty easy to balance.
Okay.
So thank you.
Yep. Thanks, Jim. Did we spur anybody else on? Anybody, Mackenzie, anybody online? Okay. All right, last shot. With that, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Thank you, council.